All right, are we back?
Oh, we're back.
All right, welcome back. Little drill. Make sure we're all awake. All right, we were wrapping up the fiscally sustainable government. The last thing I didn't have the opportunity to mention, under major projects, we have determined how to address the personal property tax issues for businesses. And I love when you're going over priorities, that one of the things that you're like, okay, we're underway on that one.
That's right.
So just open it up for staff and city council comments. Any comments on this one? Ms. Chung, would you like to? Or?
I'll just mention one thing. I mean, there has been some discussion on the desired outcome about adopt sustainable investment and banking policy and practices, that a lot of this has to do with socially responsible investments. And we heard both from the Nuclear Free Committee and from the Committee on the Environment that those are things that there's interest on. And we certainly are proceeding with bringing information forward to Council to consider some of the options on that. I would like to have Ms. Chung talk just a little bit about what her staff does.
Basically, finance is a very small department. We have only 5.5 full-time employees. So each staff has their own individual, unique, and important responsibilities. Some major important duties include budget preparation, bank account reconciliations, and also weekly check issuance. And a lot of duties are very time sensitive, like the issuance of the W-2 forms, the 1099, and also the audit reports, as well as CAFR, and all these are very time sensitive. And we cannot afford to miss all these deadlines, because we have to go by the compliance of the GASB rule. So we're currently trying to work on staff cross-training and departmental procedures to, and also the policy updates. We hope that by cross-training the staffs, each individual staff would be able to cover more duties. However, sometimes the compliance to the government auditing standard could restrain our efficiency, especially the way that they are requesting maintaining the segregation of duties. Segregation of duty is a concept that requires more than one person to complete a task. So the idea of separating by sharing more than one individual in one single task is intended to prevent fraud and also error. An example is that the person who can sign check cannot handle cash transactions. So this is one of the difficulties when we cannot assign the duty to one person. And the compliance to this standard may sometimes limit the staff capacity. Okay. One of the most important concept in this year's council priority is the significance of the socially responsible investment. Susie and I had an opportunity to talk to a consultant about introducing the positive screen. Positive screen is an idea that a type of investment that we can put into an investment called CDFI. It's called Community Development Financial Institution. And there are also some suggestions that we should switch bank from SunTrust to another institution, more like a local community bank. But the latter option is sometimes will have real implication to our staff situation. We will need to identify the SRI criteria and to send out the proposal for new banks. And the staff would need to work on a lot of different electronic deposit changes to notify the agencies, the state agencies, the county, and also our vendors about account number change. So And it could take months before we can actually have everything settled down. And also it could, in order to avoid insufficient fund situation or overdrawn account, we have to set aside some extra funding in all these different accounts. So during the interim period, so the process of switching bank could possibly create extra work for our staff. So department currently has no excess staff to support the extra capacity. So on top of the existing operating duties. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go over that a little bit. In the department, there's one person that does accounts receivable, one person that does accounts payable, one person that does the payroll, and we do try to do some cross-training, but there are some segregation of duties that preclude that. As we go forward and consider the information that will come to you about socially responsible investing, I think the feeling that is that that there would need to be some kind of staff help. It wouldn't be ongoing, but if there were a decision to move forward with some fairly significant work, such as changing banks, we would need to budget for something that would accomplish that, and it really would be a heavy lift. So I just want to put that out there on this one. That's the one that I don't see an easy solution for in the coming year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or?
I'm just, I just want to say something that I said at the last meeting, but there weren't all these other people here, which is that these are council priorities for new in initiatives, and it assumes the very important ongoing work. So I asked, how come balancing the budget isn't in here? Mm-hmm. And how come setting the tax rate isn't here, and making sure that staff issues are dealt with? And the answer is because this assumes that the regular business of running the city is this is on top of that.
That's right.
So I just wanted to, since that was news to me, I thought I'd just explain it to everybody else.
I think that's a good point, and one of the things that I've tried to, that even we as managers have to remember is that we do need to budget for what we have to do on an ongoing basis. We're extremely thin in every department, and so just thinking that through. It's important. We also recognize that as, you'll have your exercise tonight about what goes for FY19 and what might take longer. And so we're happy to talk about those.
Great. And as I said at the beginning, this is our third year doing this. I think every year we look for new ways to improve it. So, all right, we will move on then to environmentally sustainable community. We have two big goals here. The number of goals don't necessarily match the amount of work. The two overarching goals is continue to be a leader in community sustainability, which is a pretty large goal. We have a number of strategies here. These I'll actually look at. Continue program and policy efforts for more efficient energy use, especially for renters and multifamily buildings, businesses, and city operations. Increase use of renewable energy, especially solar, throughout the city. Offer bulk buy of solar and/or wind power to residents. Consider incentives for multifamily buildings and new buildings. Continue efforts related to electric vehicle use. And the other strategy here is consider draft strategic plan related to housing and economic development and adopt strategies to promote and ensure sustainable development. And our desired outcome is improved energy efficiency citywide, increasingly sustainable city operations and buildings, increased use of renewables and offsets. Our second overarching goal here is preserve and grow the tree canopy. Our strategies establish and support tree and tree canopy goals through programs in education, identify opportunities for tree retention, maintenance, and growth. And the other strategies coordinate efforts to review tree ordinance with tree canopy goals to ensure changes to the tree ordinance advance and do not adversely impact tree canopy goals. Our desired outcome is greater maintenance of mature trees, more plantings on city and private property. Major projects and initiatives and ongoing activities include the enforcement, education, and outreach related to city codes, including the polystyrene ban, safe grow, multifamily and business recycling, plastic bag ban, and snow clearing. Continued work toward achievement of all green team priorities, continued implementation of sustainable action and energy action plan, the Flower Avenue Green Street project, implement additional sustainable Maryland certified goals, continue to implement council authorized smart energy community goals, implement stormwater management projects, and review stormwater management fee structure. And I just want to let folks know that on Monday evening, this March 5th, we will be having our Green Team meeting. That is a meeting that the City Council has with the Committee on the Environment, and we'll actually be reviewing these goals and strategies as well then. I don't know if staff has anything to say on those, or?
I will say the Public Works Director has a large portion of this, so I'll turn it over to her. We do have one kind of staff opportunity that we're considering, and that is we have a retirement coming up by our city gardener, Mike Welsh. And that's a big change, but it also does allow us some thought about some restructuring or whatever with his position. So, Daryl, let me turn it over to you.
For the March 5th meeting. But just briefly, there is a lot going on, as there has been for the past couple of years in the sustainability field, particularly related to energy efficiency. And that continues in addition to the residential energy efficiency program, the Green Home certification. That was the kickoff for our sustainability programs. We followed that up with the Car Free Challenge, which was the second campaign that we ran this year, or previous year, 2017, from April through October. The next campaign is going to be a green energy campaign. I think on March 7th, you're scheduled to hear the results of the RFP that was issued for green energy providers. Because there are so many, and it's so busy, and it's so complicated and confusing, and people worry also about fraud or whatever, we're going to simplify the process, select a vendor, to promote green power at a reasonable rate. So we've got 3 proposals back from our RFP, so we're going to do a community-wide campaign encouraging folks to transition to green power if they haven't already for the electricity source. So we'll have a company lined up to coordinate that. In addition, one of the requirements of the RFP was for the company not only to provide their standard offer service for folks that can afford the change, but also to offer a program for low income. That was a key component of the program, so that those folks that are less able to afford a cost for energy, particularly if it's higher, would be able to still participate. And that's one of the things we've been trying to do in the energy efficiency program, so we've rolled them out. We've had a very aggressive low and moderate income energy efficiency program. This is our 3rd year. It's been both city funded as well as grant funded, so we've got funding from the Maryland Energy Administration. And we've done energy retrofits in quite a number of homes of low and moderate income residents. We use the criteria that was first established by the Housing and Community Development Office for those meeting that condition of low income. In addition to that, we've also had an aggressive multifamily program to work with the buildings. We've had more success with large shared building use in multifamily versus individual rental unit transitions. We started out, our first campaign was with going after renters with the ACEEE program. Very little traction. So the next budget year we included funding for a larger scale, up to $10,000 per building energy efficiency programs. And so we've been quite successful. I think we've had at least a half a dozen of those throughout the community and are planning more this year. Related to tree canopy, we had included in this year's budget an evaluation of the tree canopy, and we've been working with kind of the guru of tree canopy information. We just learned last week that Park and Planning is doing a new LIDAR study that will be ready in June. So we debated back and forth. We were planning to kick off our campaign, which would have finished in April, and we had a community meeting planned to talk about tree canopy goals and have our tree canopy assessment available at that point. But he's really encouraged us to wait to get the new data. Then we'll have a multi-years data, and then we'll have this latest LIDAR, which is a kind of penetrating radar that can tell all kinds of things. So we're going to follow his advice. Susie hasn't heard this yet, just hearing it now first, but we're going to recommend that we delay, which would then push that program that was funded this year into next year. And the intention behind that is to update our understanding about the tree canopy throughout the city on a very graphic way, can tell by ward, sort of what the tree canopy is. And then with the goal of setting a tree canopy goal for the city. We don't have one now. It's something that the Committee on the Environment has been very interested in. So we feel like once we have that data evaluated, which will show historic as well as current, we'll be better situated to recommend a canopy goal that makes a lot of sense. We've also got a great deal going on in the stormwater arena. This current budget year, we raised the stormwater utility rates.
Sorry, I think someone's locked out. Or we're locked in, I don't know which it is.
If it's not loud, you can open it back up. It was loud out there for a while.
Still have the beep, waiting for the fire department to reset the pull box. So we'll be bringing to you also on March 7th a recommendation for an award of a contract for a firm to do the stormwater impervious area evaluation and take another look at what we call our ERU, our equivalent residential unit, which is kind of the basis for our billing system within the stormwater programs. So we'll be bringing that in front of you. That's, I think, a 12-week, once we kick off, a 12-week program. So hopefully the early, either the late of this fiscal year or early next fiscal year, we'll have some information to bring to council on that. We've got a slew of stormwater projects that are going to be taking place this spring and summer. That information is on the project directory. We're kicking off a project in Talisha's ward, supposed to start this week at Kirkland and Kennewick, and then we'll be moving through quickly a session of 4 or 5 others. When we get to the budget discussions, we'll have our 5-year CIP stormwater projects. Actually, I think it's 6 years, are both our major maintenance as well as our new facilities. And so you'll see a list of what we've got planned and what credit we think we are going to be able to gather out of that. Because, one of the reasons the program is set up the way it is for us to reach our NPDES mandated goals for stormwater treatment levels. And there's a good document, if you want to get into that, on the city's website that I presented as part of the budget discussions last year that goes into sort of what the state requirements are, where we are currently in meeting those requirements, where we think we're going to be in 5 years, and what we think the gap is going to be. Not to take too much more time, but also obviously the Flower Avenue and Ethan Allen Green Street projects, while they have a lot of different goals, pedestrian safety, traffic calming, they also have a stormwater component, so they kind of cover a bunch of environmental issues at once. And of course, last but not least is our streetlight retrofit, which is moving ever so slowly, but Pepco has selected the fixture. They're supposed to be installing 20 for us in a pilot, phase to show us what it'll look like. The locations will be on Erie Avenue, so it's directly adjacent to Flower Avenue where we've already done the conversion, and on Oswego Avenue, and then one other residential street in the city. So we'll be, as soon as we hear when that's taking place. They also have gone out to contract for the installation, so the assumption is that once those pilot lights go in and we say, yep, looks good to us, then they will set up the process for installation, and that'll be a citywide street light conversion, which will be, a major undertaking. And so we'll be developing a public information campaign to help facilitate people's questions on those things. That is all I had on my list.
Great, thank you.
And I just want to mention that with a number of these items, and in addition, the code items like the polystyrene ban, safe grow, recycling, plastic bag ban, that kind of thing, and some of the tree stuff, we've been really putting an effort on education. So we're doing outreach and education sessions on all of these things as part of our regular staffing. So.
Great. Terrific. Does City Council have any? Councilmember Kovar?
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the education, because that was actually one of the things I wanted to ask about. So I hope we'll get a chance to publicize those events when they happen. One other thing, and I apologize, I just learned that because of a family thing, I can't be at the Green Team meeting on Monday, so I just want to say a couple of words about that. It sort of struck me, and this is partly, didn't just strike me, residents in Ward 1 mentioned it, and then it struck me. I guess that's how it works sometimes. But the way we describe the environmentally sustainable community, the goal as compared with the main goals and the other ones, we kind of, in a way, just sort of restate the top goal is environmentally sustainable community, and then our main goal is to be a leader in community sustainability. So whereas in the others, not so much in the final one on community development, but we have a strategic plan to try to deal with that. But in the others, we kind of spell out in a little bit more detail. So it just seems to me, and this will depend on how the Green Team meeting goes, and I apologize I won't be there, but it might make sense to me to just break it out and just say more than just saying, hey, in order to be an environmentally sustainable community, we need to be a leader in community sustainability, and just say, by doing 1, 2, and 3, whatever the Green Team items are. And I realize that's kind of a vague thing, and again, I apologize I won't be at the meeting, but that one strikes me as slightly less well-developed than the others. And, you know, it's our work. I'm not complaining to anybody about that. Hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Councilwoman DeBala?
Yeah, we're going to, I think we're going to talk about this more on Monday. I think what the Environment Committee is going to bring up is something similar, which is last year the council was focused like a laser on energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And have we made enough progress on that some other issues deserve attention, maybe at this level of priority or maybe at the next rung down for the Environment Committee to focus on. But I think that's what they're going to want to talk about, particularly stormwater and water quality.
Okay. Great. Anything else on this one? All right, then we will continue moving on. The next category is engaged, responsive, service-oriented government. We have a lot of goals here on this one. The first is identifying policing priorities and explore options for enhanced police and community relations. Our desired outcome under this goal are improved relations between the police department and community measured by resident survey response and through other means, and mutual aid agreements in place with District of Columbia and Prince George's County to enhance coordination among police departments. Our next goal is improved communications with residents, especially two-way online and social media communications. We have a number of strategies here, and our desired outcome is information about issues and program more easily accessible for all residents. Next is improved policies and processes related to the tree ordinance, traffic calming, sidewalk requests, repair and maintenance, and residential commercial boundary conflicts. So under these, we have a lot of strategies on improving communications. Some of our outcomes we want to see are user-friendly and easy to understand tree ordinance, improved and more equitable policies and processes related to traffic calming, improved and more equitable policies related to sidewalk requests, maintenance and repair, and improved and processes related to residential commercial boundary conflicts. Our next goal here is improve and formalize systems for council-appointed committees and external committees on which council members serve. Our goal here is to have, our desired outcome is to have a diverse, engaged, productive, and rewarding committee membership. And the other desired outcome under this one is a better understanding of individual council members' roles, improved communication amongst the council. Under this priority, major projects, initiatives, and ongoing activities include implement changes to further council's resolution regarding the police department renovation, the concept design, continue to serve as a liaison between utility companies and community to improve communications and understanding of project impacts, IT projects, and planning for moving city elections to coincide with state and federal elections. So there's a lot here that touches upon almost everyone in this room. So I don't know if anyone would like to kick us off.
I think I'll have the chief start.
Kick us off, okay?
Definitely. As you all know, community policing and community engagement is the backbone of what we want to do as a police agency. I've come in and we've started to evaluate what works and what doesn't work. We've reestablished our Chiefs Advisory Board, which I think is very important to get citizen input. We also did an evaluation of some of our community outreach programs and how they're spread out amongst different entities within the police department. One of the new initiatives or new positions you'll see is a COPS coordinator, which is a community-oriented policing coordinator that can coordinate all of our efforts for community policing. It's our desire to have all of our staff involved in community policing and practice it in what they do every day in their interaction with the public. But we feel like this COPS position will be able to focus all of our resources into one funnel. Right now we have, like I said, we have different people doing different things. We have one person planning National Night Out, one person planning an event with our schools. So that's, we think, is a valuable position to kind of mainstreaming those community policing outreach activities. As far as the mutual aid agreements, I've already reached out to Chief Stawinski from Prince George's County and Chief Newsom from DC. We've shared some draft proposals for MOUs. I think it's extremely important that we have that cooperation across jurisdictional boundaries. We share a lot of information as far as real-time crime information, but if we need those resources, we need to know what we can count on. And I think it's imperative that we have current mutual aid agreements with both Prince George's and DC. We currently have one with Montgomery County and some other jurisdictions. But going back to community policing, we've done some things that I think are really going to establish some of the partnerships that we really need here in the city. I think we really need partnerships with the schools. We really need partnerships with all of our stakeholders and all of our wards. We've seen an underrepresentation on some of our boards and some of our participation from some of our wards. And I want to make sure that our outreach is engaging all of our citizens. As well as I think it's extremely important that diversity is stressed as far as employment, as far as participation. It is my goal to make sure that our police department is reflective of the community. And that's my goal in hiring, and that's my goal in promoting from within the police department. I think it's extremely important. So like I said, I think that we're evaluating what works and what doesn't work, and we're going to come back to you with our annual report next week, and we'll discuss some of the priorities and some of the things that we've discovered by our initial survey of the agency.
Okay. Anyone, before we move off policing, anyone have any questions on that one? Okay. Anyone else? Would IT like to say anything?
Sure.
It's nice that we have.
I know, now that your microphone works.
Yeah, isn't that good? I'd just say that, there are three things underneath IT projects here. The IT switches, next generation firewall, actually also routers would be in there. But basically what this is to get the systems up to a modern state and secure, reliable, and increased capacity so that staff will have the ability to do their jobs. Right now, I know that with the TV department moving lots of data back and forth, they have difficulties because they just don't have the bandwidth, capacity in the system. So making these changes not only gives us a more secure environment to work in, but also improves the capacity. So what I'm looking to do is enable departments to be able to to function at a higher level, and putting this system into place as well as some other changes is going to go a long way to giving them the right tools they need to get their jobs done and to meet all of these goals.
And I just want to mention, as you look through all of the schedule of the different departments and staffing, our IT unit is 3.5 people. Mm-hmm. Any one of them is sick or something, it's much less. They've been putting in an enormous number of hours, as we did some of the internal staff area renovations. And so those are things that happen all the time, and I really appreciate they work their butts off. I really appreciate that, but I think it is indicative of many of our departments that we're very thin.
Anything else under this priority that someone would like to speak to? No?
I guess I do want to just mention that on many of these items under this category, there may not be a lot of staff work necessarily involved in it. It's more just making sure that the policies make sense, how we handle sidewalk requests and things. So there'll be some time thinking about that and working with our city attorney and that kind of thing on these. Obviously, as we establish different processes and policies, we want them to be less staff intensive when possible while meeting the goals that we all have. And we are very interested, of course, in seeing the resident survey. We've got proposals in, so we'll be coming back to you not too long about the process on that, and that will be helpful on these as well as other goals.
Terrific. All right, our last priority is community development for an improved and equitable quality of life. This is actually an area where we changed the title in prior priority documents. This was called economic development, and the city council realized that we meant so much more than what that term was communicating, and so really we changed this to be community development for an improved and equitable quality of life. The main goal here is plan and prepare for development in the city and region while maintaining the special character and diversity of Takoma Park. We have 3 strategies: consider draft strategic plan related to housing and economic development, optimize and leverage the city's business associations, that would be the Old Town Business Association and the Crossroads Development Authority, and provide direct outreach and support for local businesses. Our desired outcomes are implementation plans developed and adopted to plan and prepare for development and maintain the special character and diversity of Takoma Park, and improved coordination with business associations in order to help make them more effective and thriving local businesses. We have a lot of major projects under this one. We have the Takoma Junction redevelopment, Purple Line preparation, the John Nevins Andrews School, which is on Elm Avenue and is for sale at the moment, the Washington McLaughlin property, library renovation and expansion, including ADA improvements, economic development along New Hampshire Avenue, redevelopment of the New Hampshire Avenue Rec Center, contracts for economic development services in Old Town and the Tacoma Langley Crossroads Business District, the Washington Adventist Hospital campus, advocating for the campus for a campus that continues to meet the needs of the community, Ethan Allen Streetscape project, and the Montgomery College construction projects, including the new math and science building.
So there's only one goal here, but frankly, the ongoing projects are probably the story for the FY19 budget. Mm-hmm. And when I have looked at this, there's, I think, 2 things. One is, obviously, there's projects that are going on that really aren't in our control, Purple Line and hospital and these other kinds of things that they're going to happen whether we budget for them or want them or not. The other thing, though, is that I think because Takoma Park is kind of, I don't know if it's on a roll, but it's been a more and more in demand as a location for businesses and residents. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing an enormous amount of work. Even things like people expanding their homes and needing municipality letters for their development review process has really increased. As I've looked at this, and I've been thinking about, for example, what the HCD unit needs, just to do what's on, I think that we don't have any control over. I think I need a new planner, and I think I need an economic development manager, in addition to the economic development specialist that we're hoping to, that we've been trying to advertise for as a contract position, but now I see it likely being an ongoing position. And, so I see not only projects, but I see ongoing work for the foreseeable future. This is exciting. I have put off for years adding economic development staff, often at the criticism by the council for not doing that because I didn't feel that the pressure was there yet. Though I feel the pressure's here now. And so I do think that as we talk about some of these projects, it's just even the last 3 weeks, the amount of work that we have done to respond to things related to the hospital and Washington McLaughlin and the Purple Line and some proposals along New Hampshire Avenue about BRT and that kind of thing. It's been an enormous amount of work that staff has had to do, and I don't see that going away. So I'm happy to have other folks talk about how they fit in on that, but this is the area where I do feel the strongest pressure for staff needs in the coming year.
If I might expand a little bit on what Suzanne has said, is that one of the biggest challenges with economic development is developing those relationships with the businesses and the property owners. And while a lot of the planning and redevelopment projects are very specific, you're working on something, you're making things happen, a lot of the economic development things are developing a comfort level on both sides with a particular individual that may be looking to expand, possibility of relocating and or bringing in another business, and that's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. So having additional staff on board that would not only be able to work in partnership with the planners to do the land use planning and the development work, but also to go out and knock on doors and have coffee with people and look at how the city might be able to help facilitate their success would be really instrumental in terms of being able to take the strategic plan and moving it forward. There are a couple of recommendations in the economic development component of the strategic plan, which I think are attractive to several of the council members. One is developing a bi-county business improvement district, sort of taking the Crossroads CDA model and blowing it up so it includes more of the businesses along New Hampshire Avenue, as well as those that are not necessarily in Takoma Park. And that is going to be, if we can pull that off in the next 3 years, I will be amazed. But, you know, just because it's going to be a miracle doesn't mean we can't work towards that. But it's going to be a lot of time and commitment and particularly a good fit as far as how that position is structured. And the same is also true in terms of the business retention and expansion program that I've been trying to do for the last couple of years, but we've not had the staff capacity where we go out and reach out to all the businesses throughout the community in partnership with the existing business associations just to get them to know them better. You know, do they feel that they're safe? Are there potholes in the street that, you know, somebody should come out and fix? Things like that we can do to help them, but also help you as far as your work with your constituents.
I appreciate what Sarah has shared, and to kind of mount on or add on to that already growing laundry list of things. I think it's also going to be important to have, you mentioned that economic development manager, or to kind of have someone that has the capacity to somewhat establish the strategic vision for what the commercial space throughout the city should embody. Right? Because what the space can hold is one question. It's totally different from what residents within the city would be comfortable with allowing to have happen, right? So how can we start now through perhaps the community survey or through other vehicles that we have to get a feel for what some of the desires, not just of those that are willing to show up on a Wednesday, but for all of the residents in Takoma Park, what types of amenities do they want to see here? And then how do we figure out a way to develop a marketing plan such that we can then go around and talk to the businesses in the area, talk to potential businesses that are outside of the area but might be looking to relocate here? And then how can we make sure that we're kind of bringing all of these different stakeholders? We've heard from Montgomery County, and there's 2 Takoma Langley sector plans. There's one for Montgomery County. There's one for Prince George's County. Now now. Prince George's is now talking about this Northern Gateway initiative. So there's just tons of work that's happening that's going to have direct impact on the residents here, either through disrupting their streets and commutes home, but also in terms of the quality of the different amenities that might be available, and also making sure that the small local businesses that we all love are able to withstand something like the Purple Line construction. So I think it's going to be critically important going forward, that we're not just kind of being reactive to the laundry list, but also trying to think strategically on how to be proactive to ensure that we have a seat at the table with a lot of these guys where the trains are already kind of moving full steam ahead. Mm-hmm.
Did you want to?
To expand on that a little bit too, one of the things that I have in my head as far as how this might all work is that I have very strong people in both the housing and the planning divisions right now. And by adding this third division with the focus more purely on economic development, if you will, that it gives us that flexibility to bring in the skill sets from these other divisions. So for example, with the Purple Line, there's a planning component of that as well as an economic development. The Washington Venice Hospital and University campus. That's all three divisions as far as planning as a potential use, or excuse me, housing as a potential use, the planning component, as well as the economic development. So, well, I sound like I really want this position. I think it does add a lot of value to the department and to the city's ongoing efforts to continue to expand from a financial standpoint with the property tax base, but also to continue to meet the needs and the desires of the community.
I want to just mention a little bit. I mean, part of the reason that I've held off having this kind of a position is because I didn't want them to come in and it not be the right time for that. There is a certain amount, as you said, that we have to be proactive because we don't want to have somebody coming in and it not be what Takoma Park wants. Mm-hmm. I mean, so there is an effort that we need to make to move forward. One of the major goals of this is not just to have amenities for the community, but to also be able to have the economic base that allows us to provide the services that lower income folks need that are part of our community and that kind of thing. And we actually did a little bit of exercise about for the hospital property, mm-hmm. The value of that property, if property taxes were paid on it, mm-hmm. we'd be getting in about $375,000 a year just on property tax from the city alone. That's not even what they would have to pay the county. Obviously, we want to make sure that it's what we need, it's what works for the community, but also as these things come forward, it does allow us, I think, in the future, some financial flexibility to allow to maintain the programs that we've been doing that really are essential to make it a livable community. So it's a little bit of a stair-step approach that you have to take. I think we're at the point where we do need to put that extra step in to allow us to have the staff capacity to really make it the right Takoma Park effort.
Great. Anything else on this? Yeah, Councilmember.
Thank you, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking more frequently. I think it's really important, and I think the city manager just touched on a little bit, the fifth goal, community development for an improved, equitable quality of life. And I'm glad we changed it to community from economic development. That sort of circles back and is directly connected to a livable community for all. And so I really appeal to you all to think of them almost as a connected
Absolutely.
thing, because when we're talking about displacement or gentrification or whatever term you want to use, they're really connected almost.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of our biggest overall strategy, overall challenge that we face as a city. So
that's right.
Okay. Perfect. Any other comments? So the next exercise, and I want to ask the city staff to stay for just one more second to see if anyone has any comments on this. So the next exercise the council is going to do is we get 3 dots each. And on the what's behind you, the blown up version of the priorities is each of us get to put a dot next to one of the goals, or it could be a strategy that we want to prioritize for this fiscal year that we're budgeting for coming forward. As we said, this is sort of our journey to map out our journey over the next 3 years, but we want to think about what are the things that we want to really prioritize in this coming budget year. So I want to offer to the staff if there's anything that anyone would like to say that in your department you would like to sort of advocate for. Now's your opportunity on what's up there on the board. No one?
What are the other three for?
The other three, so after, so this is new, we're doing a bunch of new things this year. The other three are areas where each of us will take a lead role. So it's a different exercise. So after we do the priorities, then we can go back, and it could be what you put a star on as a priority, or it could be something else. But the idea is that each of us would, and some of us can team up too. It doesn't, you don't have to take it on yourself, but that you would be sort of the point person on the council, working with staff, with myself as we move that priority forward, or that goal forward.
Should the budget things be like dollar figure kinds of things, or just items that may not cost anything?
Well, nothing costs
Ones
nothing.
that don't cost anything are great.
All right.
No, I mean, this things that are not up there are the ongoing projects.
Yeah.
Or the day-to-day work that we do. So the idea here is for you to identify those things that you really think should be done within and done kind of in FY19. That's what I will take from that information is then kind of, as I'm trying to make some really tough decisions with all the requests from the departments, what I'd put forward in a draft budget for you.
It could be an area where there's lots of extra money going to it, or it could just be an area where you want the staff to focus more on it. Either of those two things could be.
That's right.
Right.
It's what do you think as an outcome that you're really focused on?
Okay, yes.
It's not in the budget right now.
No, but it will be reflected in the budget. And, I mean, if it's something that you're putting on there that's a council action, great.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something that has some budget action that I need to accommodate for, then I know I have to accommodate.
Okay, Chief?
I will take the opportunity as the new person in the room. I know it was a huge priority of the former council, and I'm sure current council members that didn't sit, to make sure that the police department got back to where we need to be. And honestly, we've done an assessment, and to really get our police department back to where we need to be, we need that community policing person. We need to restructure the police department so it is in a way that the police department can function efficiently. So I would really hope that the policing goal was one that all of you would understand is extremely important to the city. I know you guys have put a lot of confidence in me and hiring me, and my staff has been very excited about coming up with ideas, and I think we've come up with a very good plan to engage our citizens and also restructure the police department so our general orders are in line and so on and so forth. So if I will be the new person in the room to plead for the police department. So.
Yeah. Ms. Daines?
I would also just third my previous comments about the Housing and Economic Development Strategic Plan, with the caveat that it is a huge document, and you'll be going through the next step with that document and identifying what are priorities for you as well.
Great. Yes.
I would just make a comment. So a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight, it's up to council to weigh the importance of them, and obviously everything that we've talked about are things that can take us to the next level. But there are also things that are going to go in the budget, like the things that Mr. DeSalvio was talking about a little bit earlier, that really in some respects are a fait accompli. Like we need to improve our security, our network security. We need to be able to communicate with others outside of the organization and internally using up-to-date technologies, and those do come with significant costs in some cases. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. Oh, and also just a note, regarding the dots, the red ones, everybody's got the red ones. Those are for the second part where you decide what you champion. The other ones are for identifying your priorities.
Terrific. All right. Well, yeah. Anybody have any other questions? If not, let the dots begin.
Are we putting dots on goals? Or
Goals or strategies? I think you could do either one. Either one. Because some of them, like, I mean,
And
Yeah.
this is an art, not a science.
all right.
yes, it very much is. I think this is the first year you put our names on them. Where's Jason?
You don't have to use them all.
No, we're not doing that. Sarah, we're not, what?
We on one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can do multiple ones on it. No, we're doing.
Mini back and forth, wordsmithing the various goals and strategies. At this point, I think it's safe to assume that some version of this, although it's not official until council adopts these goals and strategies, will be the priorities for this current council's term over the next 3 years. What the dots are doing is indicating what we should really be focusing on as the city manager is putting together the recommended budget for fiscal year 19. Things that we should be thinking about as we're making those resource allocations decisions, both from a financial standpoint and a human resources standpoint.
How's that? Ooh. Okay, so we have one dot on identifying program needs in the community, develop approaches to meet those needs, emphasizing youth, families, seniors, and our more vulnerable residents, such as those with lower incomes, immigrants, and people with developmental disabilities. 4, on assuring we have a range of safe, quality, and stable housing options that are affordable for residents of varying incomes and all races and ethnicities. 2, on the further efforts related to racial equity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on plan and prepare for development in the city and region while maintaining the special character and diversity of Takoma Park. And 1 on increased funding from county and state to address tax duplication and other city needs. And 5 on identifying policing priorities and explore options for enhanced police-community relations. So there's a lot of consistency. All right. All right, so now the next thing is take your red dots, come up and put a dot next to, and this can be a goal or a strategy what you as a council person would like to help take the lead on. And again, 2 people can take the same thing. It doesn't have to be one person. And I know some people are doing, like Jared is taking it's not up here, but Jared's doing a lot of work with the Maryland Municipal League on the tax duplication stuff, our legislative priorities in Annapolis. So
you're saying he only has for
I don't know, it's up to him. But I just want to recognize that some folks are kind of going a lot already, and so which may not be easily recognizable here. So
Yeah, I think it's up to you all as individuals to determine whether or not you want to do 0, 1, 2, or 3. The mayor would probably have you all do 3.
So come up and figure it out.
Well, do we automatically get to do something, or is it like it's sort of?
No, if you don't want to
We're gonna play
you
rock.
don't have to.
No, but I mean, if we put a sticker there, is that just it, we're doing it, or is there like a process for determining it?
We're gonna play rock, paper, scissors.
I think,
you're
if I can speak to this just for a
I
moment.
don't mean that, whatever the
Yeah,
staff,
what-
the staff thinks, we
what-
need council's help on that one, you know, I mean.
Well,
Well,
let's
at a minimum, what needs to happen is to make sure you bug me, it gets on the agenda, there's
Okay.
coordination, if
Okay.
it's pulling together residents and city staff. So there is nothing, I can promise you right now, there is nothing up here that is just gonna happen without somebody helping it move forward. And I think having the conversation regarding the capacity on the staff level, this is also realizing the size of our staff and what we have been asking them to do. And so, as council, maybe looking at ways that we can help out move things forward.
And it is helpful, whether it's one of these subjects or some of the other things that aren't on there because they're ongoing projects and that kind of thing. It's really useful to be able to have somebody to work with while we're drafting a letter or whatever, or if we need to kind of get a straw poll about an approach, or with the community, or we need to have one of you talk to your colleagues so that there's some consensus so we know where you're going on. It's not something that needs council action, but just as a little, some aspect. It's really helpful to have somebody to talk with. So we really appreciate that team sharing approach on many of these big projects.
All right, come on up. You guys were more enthusiastic about the other one.
I know.
Now I see what you did. Don't feel limited. Maybe these would be like big things.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, actually.
should just assume we're all working on housing. That's what I said, Peter, we can. Yeah. Yeah, that's what Peter and I were just talking about, so. Yeah. We could just do that, send that out like on email and talk about it. It's not, it's more of an administrative thing. Let's see. Cindy put a red on the identified program needs in the community. Talisha and Peter on the housing. But as I said, I think we're all going to be doing that one. Talisha put a red on the defending status of the sanctuary city. Casey and Kate put one, or myself, I'm talking about myself in third person, further efforts related to racial equity. Talisha and Kate did on the, plan and prepare for development in the city. Cindy on continue to be a leader in community sustainability. I put one on the identify policing priorities, explore options for enhanced police and community relations. Peter put one on improving communications for residents, especially two-way communications. Peter and Casey are the improving policies and processes. Including the tree ordinance, traffic calming. Oh, tree ordinance. God, Cindy and Casey put improve and formalize systems for council-appointed committees. Oh, if I had another dot, I'd put one there too. So I'll be there too. Good. All right. Well, that's, I think, unless other folks had any other comments, that's what we'll call it an evening. And I just, again, this is our first time doing this. As the council sets its priorities, every year we're, coming into this a little bit more. I think every year we improve things. I think particularly having our new council members, their new eyes on it. The actual document was much improved this year. And I thank the city staff for being involved, and we'll see how it goes. And then next year, I'm sure we'll improve upon this process even more. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. And we're back in the back here, actually, on Monday night for our Green Team meeting. Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.